Look, I'm going to be very direct with you today. I get DMs every single day from crypto founders who are bleeding money before they have raised a single dollar, and nobody has sat down and told them what I'm about to tell you. Over the last 2 years, my team and I helped raise over $215 million across 13 different crypto startups. And I saw founders wasting hundreds of thousands of dollars before a single investor had seen anything. They spent on beautiful deck, token advisor, white paper copywriter, financial model, content agency, legal review, all of it paid before a minimum viable product has even been tested. And most of that money is gone the moment they found out their model doesn't work. And every single thing they paid for, AI can produce a working first draft of all of it before you raise $1 for less than $100. Research, content, branding, outreach messages, everything that used to take weeks now can be drafted in one day. That's what I'm going to walk you through today. The exact sequence I would follow if I was starting a crypto project from scratch right now. Let's get into it. Step 1, find the right niche before you touch anything else. This is the mistake I see most often. Founders get excited about an idea, spot some competitors, and decide they'll just do it better. 6 months later, the market tells them nobody asked for this. That's not bad luck. That's what happens when you skip the research stage. In crypto, research is not just the box you check at the start. It shapes every decision from day one. You want to go where money is already moving, where investors are already writing checks, where there is a real gap nobody has filled yet. 2 years ago, mapping that picture meant hiring a strategy firm. The whole process takes 3 to 4 weeks and $15,000, maybe more. Today, it looks like this. You open Perplexity and ask, what are the fastest growing categories in crypto right now by on-chain revenue? Where is there genuine unmet demand? And which narratives are investors losing confidence in? 4 minutes of waiting and you get what would have taken an analyst a full week. Then you go to DeFi Llama and filter projects by revenue. You bring that picture into Claude, paste in 3 or 4 competitor projects, and ask it to map their positioning, their weak points, and where they're leaving demand unserved. By the end of one afternoon, you have a clearer picture of your market than most founders get after a month inside of it. So if your signal is there, go deeper. Signal is weak, move on before you have committed months of your life to the wrong direction. Step 2, test your narrative before you write a single line of code. Many founders build first and talk about it later. That's a huge mistake. You're about to make a $200,000 bet in time, money, and opportunity cost based entirely on your own opinion about what the market wants, without ever asking the market anything. And by the time you find out the narrative doesn't land, you already spent the money and your precious time. So before you build, go and talk to the market. And I'm not talking about just announcing a product. Go talk about the problem in the niche and make the notes on what real people care about. X and Reddit are the best platforms to test a narrative before you consider to build in that direction. For X, try to ask Claude for 25 different angles on the problem you want to solve, each one framing it differently. Post 7 to 10 of them over 10 days and watch what lands with that target audience. A genuine signal is 10 or more real reactions per post from people who actually look like your audience. Under 5 means the angle is wrong, so you have to test 2-3 more options before you go further. For Reddit, find 2 or 3 subreddits where your future users already spend time and post the same problem framed as question or an observation. Reddit tells you things X won't. The feedback is bolder, the discussions go deeper, and the people there are often much closer to your real users than a crypto Twitter audience. If your idea gets 20 people sharing painful stories or go all in into a hot dispute, that's a proof. Screenshot everything, feed it to Claude or Perplexity, and use it later in your narrative. The channel that gets real traction tells you where your audience lives. The angle that gets real engagement tells you how to talk to them. Whichever message consistently resonates becomes the narrative everything else gets built around. The deck, the white paper, the raise itself. And every comment, reply, and thread when someone says, yes, this is exactly the problem I have. That's early proof of market demand. Save all of it. When an investor asks you later why people want this, you show them the evidence, not just the pitch. Step 3. Build the proof, not just the product. You have the niche. You have the narrative traction. Now you build. And while you build, AI handles the preparation in parallel. So you're not paying for everything at once at the end. Because here's what most teams do. They wait until the product is almost done. Then pay for everything together. Tech designer, token advisor, white paper copywriter, financial model, positioning consultant, content agency, and more. That's nearly $50,000 out of the door before a single investor commits. I've watched this skill raises so many times because the money ran out before the proof existed. Instead of spending money up front on materials that are not yet validated, it is better to first build working drafts and only then review them with experts for less money. Here is what that can look like today. Pitch deck. Open Claude, paste in your project brief, ask for a 12-slide narrative structure, and get a full framework in minutes. Refine it with the research you did, make it yours, drop it into Manus or Gamma, and the slides design themselves. Then run it through pitch deck. It gives you AI feedback from an investor's perspective and flags what makes investors uncomfortable before you get on a call with them. White paper. Same input, but different prompt. Claude will draft the structure for you, and your role is just to add the technical depth. Push it specifically to show how the token earns its value. Not just what it's called, but exactly where demands come from and how value flows on chain. Investors today are much stricter about tokenomics than they were 2 years ago. Vague promises do not survive due diligence. Investor FAQ. This one is genuinely underrated. I like to stress test the project by asking Claude to act as a skeptical investor and generate the 30 hardest due diligence questions they might ask. The goal is to prepare clear answers to each one without sounding uncertain or hesitant. Keep this document nearby before every investor meeting so the main objections are already addressed before the investor even raises them. Financial projections. AI can design a business model, your token mechanics, and your go-to-market assumptions. Ask it to build 3 scenarios: conservative, base, and aggressive, with every assumption written out and justified. Then ask it to stress test each one. What happens if the user growth is 50% slower than expected? What happens if token price drops 40% in month 3? What happens if your biggest distribution partner pulls out? The goal is not to produce a beautiful spreadsheet. The goal is to walk into an investor meeting already knowing the hard question they will ask about your numbers and having the answers before they do. Investors don't fund projections. They fund founders who understand the assumptions behind their projections well enough to defend them under pressure. That's what this exercise actually builds. And I want to add something important here. AI gives you speed. It removes the excuse of not having a draft, not having a starting point, not having the budget to begin. But speed is not the same as judgment. The deck that actually closes investors is not the one Claude generates in 10 minutes. It's the one that went through people who have sat across from investors and know exactly where trust breaks down. The tokenomics that survives due diligence are not the one that looks clean on paper. They are the one that have been pressure tested by people who have watched token economics collapse in month 4 because one assumption was wrong. AI gets you 70% of the way faster than anything else available. That last 30% is still what separates a raise that closes from one that doesn't. Step 4. Know what you're actually launching with. Now, where you are depends on which stage you are at. If you just started testing your narrative, this is what you're building toward. If you already have a project and a community, this is what you need to do before you open the raise. So before you open anything, get clear on 3 things. First, who's actually active in your community? Not total numbers. People who showed up in the last 30 days, asked questions, shared something, came back more than once. If you're still early, every person who replies to your Reddit post or engages with your content on X is a future community member. Start tracking them now. Second, how much capital is actually there? Most founders overestimate this by 3 or 4 times because they're counting followers, not wallets. Use Perplexity to look up average ticket sizes for comparable multiple raises. Use Claude to run the math against realistic conversion rates. If you're targeting $3 million, but your real community can support $800,000, you need to know that before you launch, not when everything is live. Third, who your key opinion leaders are. In most communities, 5% of all the people drive most of the activity and referrals. These are the people who will make your raise faster. If you're still early, they are already there, and they are the ones who keep showing up. So pay attention to them. This is exactly what we do before every raise at Gems. We look at what actually exists. Real community, real capital, real distribution before any money is spent on the raise. The projects that go through this process launch it with a wait list and active leaders already in place. The ones that skip it launch cold and spend the first 2 weeks finding out things they should have known before they started. So let me wrap this up. Most founders still do it the old way. They spend tens of thousands of dollars before testing a single thing. They spend 3 months on research that today takes 1 afternoon, and they launch into silence because nobody checked what they actually had before opening the round. The cost is not just money, it's time. It's momentum. It's the raise that could have happened but didn't. The founders who follow this sequence come into every conversation with a proof. Real signals, real demand, real structure. That changes the terms they get, the investors they attract, and how fast everything moves after launch. And if you want the full picture in one place, I put together a free Web3 scaling playbook. It covers everything that need to be ready before you raise. 6 modules, the exact things most founders get wrong before they ever sit across from an investor. The link is in the description. And remember, capital doesn't move on hype. It moves when uncertainty is removed. And now you have the tools to remove it before anyone even asks. See you in the next one.